Hello, everyone. Hope you're all having a great day today. Today, I just wanted to talk about the debate over God's existence, and more specifically, the debate itself. So, I've watched a lot of debates on whether or not God exists, and in my case, I used to be a Christian, so I'm interested in knowing whether or not the Christian God exists, not some other God necessarily. I mean, I would be interested in knowing that, but in my case, I'm more specifically interested in knowing whether or not the Christian God exists, because that's what I grew up believing so strongly. So you have lots of debates on this issue, and one thing keeps coming back to me that strikes me as really odd, and that is the fact that there's all these deep philosophical arguments for God's existence, and there's deep philosophical rebuttals, and it goes back and forth and back and forth, and it's like every time people have these debates and things, generally, I'm assuming, of course, I don't know for sure, but I'm assuming the audience, for the most part, would like to know, even if they have an opinion on it already. They want to know if God exists. And if the Christian God exists, and there is an all-loving, all-powerful God, why does he not just let them know that the person debating that he does exist is correct? Why doesn't he just reveal himself, show up, and be like, hey, person A is right and person B is wrong? Sorry, guys, to spoil the debate here, but person A is correct. You can all go home now. Have a nice day. Why is this not the case? Why does God let people try to come to the truth and listen to these debates and things, and some of them come to the conclusion that he does exist, and some of them come to the conclusion that he most likely doesn't. But they want to know the truth. If the Christian God does exist, I certainly would like to know. I definitely would want to know. But God does not reveal himself to me. He doesn't show himself to me. He doesn't do anything. Now, there's a couple of supposed solutions to this problem. There's a couple of answers I've heard and things I've thought of, and one of them being, well, if God makes himself known, then he's infringing upon your free will, and people can't choose to freely love him because they would just be overwhelmed by him, essentially. But this just doesn't work for a number of reasons. Number one, there's lots of people in the Bible that knew that God existed and chose to rebel against him and not follow him. And just take the Israelites, for example. God did amazing wonders in Egypt and the 10 plagues and brought them out and split the Red Sea and all this stuff. And they knew God and they knew he existed and all this. And they still rebelled against him. They disobeyed him. They went against what he wanted. It wasn't God wasn't forcing them to do anything by making his existence clearly known. And there's plenty of other examples. So another solution is if God made his existence clearly known, there's the opposite side. There's God doesn't do that because it wouldn't make a difference. People that don't want him still wouldn't follow him, and people that already believe in him, so they don't need him to. Which, this just doesn't work, because just speaking from my own testimony, I can say, with confidence, the only reason I don't follow God is because I don't think that he exists. If I knew that an all-loving, all-good, all-powerful God existed, then I would follow him. I would do what he wants to the best of my ability. And I can say that with confidence. The reason I left Christianity is because I don't think it's true. That's the only reason. So if there's an all-loving, all-powerful God out there that wants me to be saved and wants me to have a relationship with him, then it's completely up to him to let me know that he exists. Because otherwise, that can't happen. So I just don't think that this solution works. And I mean, I can't speak to everyone else, but I know that there's a lot of other people in that same situation where the question of God is just isn't relevant to them because they don't think he exists. If they knew that God existed, there's a very likely chance that a lot of people would choose to pursue him and very well likely would end up becoming believers and Christians, if Christianity is true. So both of those solutions I just don't think work. So some Christians will say, for example, well, God has, like stipulations, like you have to seek God in order to find him. And this is biblical. So like Jeremiah 29:13, if you seek me with all of your heart, you will find me. Or you will seek me and find me when you seek me with all of your heart. But the problem with this is it's an unfalsifiable claim. So if you seek God and you, to the best of your ability, and you pray and you ask him to reveal himself and you, all these things, and you don't get anything, then the Christian will always come to the conclusion that it's your fault. Because God is perfect and he can't not fulfill his promise and he can't not do what he said. So it's always your fault. So in my own case, I sought God. I prayed for him to reveal himself. There were times I basically was begging him in tears to help me because I really did not want to become an atheist. And I got absolutely nothing. Zip, nada, zilch. And so I guess the typical Christian response would be, well, I didn't seek him hard enough or long enough or something. And it's my fault, obviously, because God can't be wrong and the Bible can't be wrong. So it's my fault. I didn't do it right, I guess, even though I did what I needed to do to the best of my ability based on everything I learned, what the Bible says. I did my best. So the problem with this is no matter how hard someone seeks the Lord, if they don't find him, the Christian will always just put the blame on them. It's your fault because God can't be wrong. I'm not going to question whether my belief in God in the Bible is true because I know it's true. So no matter what happens, no matter how much it looks like you've proved that claim wrong, I'm just going to believe that the problem is with you. And this is just really frustrating to me. So think of it like this. I go up to someone and I tell them, guess what? There's actually these invisible, undetectable aliens walking around us at all times. They're in the public places, they're in the malls and Walmart and in restaurants, and they're there all the time. They're walking around. And if you look hard enough, if you really, really look hard enough, you can see them. And so I'm like, wow, well, how do you know this? Well, there's a book that tells us this. And in the book, it says lots of other true things that we verified as true. And I've read the book many times, and it's, it just makes sense. And I know it's true, and I know it's true. So look really, really, really hard, and you're going to be able to see the aliens. And I'm like, wow, this is amazing. So next time I'm in a restaurant or a public place, I'm looking really hard. I'm looking, and I just do not see anything. So I would go back to the person. I'm like, look, I looked really, really hard, and I just don't see these aliens you're talking about. He's like, well, you didn't look hard enough. You really got to look hard, man. I'm telling you. It says in the book that if you look really, really hard, you're going to see them. So keep looking. All right. So I go back, and next time I'm in the public places and whatever, I'm looking, and I'm really looking. And I just don't see them. And to be honest, this just sounds kind of far-fetched. So I go back and I'm like, look, man, I'm looking and squinting and everything as hard as I can, and I do not see a thing. Obviously, this claim that you read in this book can't be true. If you look hard enough, you'll see them because I'm doing it and I ain't seeing them. The guy goes, look, man, it is true. The problem is you're just not looking hard enough. I don't know why it is, but the book can't be wrong. And the fault is with you. And I'm like, what? Well, how do you know that this is true? And it's like, well, the aliens wrote the book. And I know they're right because I have a relationship with them. And at that point, what am I supposed to say to you? It's like, okay, sure. Yeah, you win. I didn't look hard enough. Oh, well, that's real nice. But then you tell me, oh, and if you don't believe in the aliens, you're going to be eternally punished. Just FYI. You know, I don't know about you, but you probably wouldn't be very happy with this person if they were going around telling people that. And so here's what I'm not doing. I'm not saying that this claim is just as likely as Christianity being true. Like, that's not what I'm saying, because I can just see all the accusations right now. Oh, how ridiculous, calling believing in Jesus Christ the equivalent of believing in invisible aliens walking around. What I'm doing is showing the absurdity of unfalsifiable assertions and why they're really pointless, because you can't prove them and you can't disprove them, and there's no way to know whether they're true or false. So they don't work. And that's kind of what my point is here with this little story. It's not that I think it's just as likely that God exists is that there's invisible, undetectable aliens walking around us at all times. That's not what I'm saying. Please don't take me wrong here. But I am trying to make a point that when you have an unfalsifiable assertion, you can't prove that person wrong. The person that's saying that to you and then giving all these excuses, like, there's no way to prove them wrong. They're gonna, if they want, or if they're genuinely convinced, they're gonna keep believing that. There's no way to disprove them. Absolutely no way. So they can keep believing it, and there's nothing you can do to prove them wrong. But that doesn't mean that they're justified in believing that, just because you can't prove them wrong. So the fact that there is this all-loving, all-knowing God that wants us to believe in him, but does nothing for people that are seeking to know him and want to believe in him if he's real. He does nothing for them. Nothing. The fact that that's the case, like, I just don't see any explanation that at all works. Personally, I think it might possibly be because, just maybe because, he doesn't